Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're tuning in, you're probably looking for a way to quickly get your head around the massive changes happening, especially with artificial intelligence. It's everywhere,
It
right?
really is. And that's why today we're digging into something pretty specific,
Yeah.
a framework called the two worlds philosophy.
Right, and the source material we're looking at doesn't just present this as, an interesting idea. It's positioned as a real practical guide.
Exactly. They call it an operational framework, a survival guide, even a blueprint for thriving in the AI age. It's designed to tackle what they see as the most critical question for the next, say, 10 years.
Which is?
How do we actually stay human, stay autonomous, in a world that's increasingly being shaped, maybe even defined, by machines?
Okay, so our mission here is to unpack that. We want to go beyond just the name and look at, well, what are the core ideas? How does it suggest using technology? And what's this vision it has for, I guess, a resilient human life going forward?
Precisely. We need to analyze its tenets, its strategy towards tech, and, yeah, this almost radical vision for living after the big AI shift really takes hold.
So let's start with the why. Why does this philosophy even exist? It seems to be a direct reaction to something specific they see coming.
It absolutely is. The whole philosophy kicks off from this premise that the next decade, roughly now until 2030, maybe a bit beyond, is just different, fundamentally different from anything we've seen.
In what way?
Well, they argue it's going to completely reshape work as we know it, how money flows, culture, even the basic social contract. It's not presented as a slow drift, more like a rapid foundational restructuring, an acceleration event, they call it.
Okay, that sounds intense. Is there a specific trigger or forecast driving that urgency?
Yes, there is. And it's quite alarming, frankly. The philosophy is built on this specific prediction, that by 2030, potentially half 50% of all white-collar, knowledge worker jobs in Western economies could vanish, or at least be so changed by automation they're unrecognizable.
Half. That's huge. What kinds of jobs are we talking about?
Think administrative roles? Sure. But also specialized coding, legal research, financial analysis, journalism. A lot of the jobs that have formed the backbone of the modern economy, the argument is that entire industries are going to be rebuilt around AI, robotics, and hyperautomation.
Wow. Okay. So if you're listening and trying to figure out where to position yourself, understanding that potential scale of disruption is like step one, according to this philosophy.
Exactly. It sets the stakes. If that traditional path, get educated, get a knowledge job, climb the ladder, is fundamentally broken for a large chunk of people, then what are the options?
Right. So faced with that kind of upheaval, what paths forward does this philosophy actually identify? What are the choices?
Well, the sources basically lay out three main responses people might have. It's a stark picture.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is probably the default for many, clinging to the past. Just trying to keep doing things the way they've been done, hoping it all blows over or doesn't affect your specific job.
And the philosophy's take on that.
It argues that's a losing strategy. You'll simply be outcompeted by the efficiency and cost-effectiveness of the new automated systems. Swept aside, basically.
Okay, not optimistic. What's path number two?
Path two is the one they seem most concerned about. It's submitting to digital dependence. This is the path of least resistance, where you trade autonomy for convenience.
How does that look in practice?
It means accepting things like digital IDs tied to everything, potentially relying on universal basic income, or UBI, because your job disappeared, and generally living within systems that offer optimized comfort but demand your data and ultimately your control. You become what they term a digital dependent.
Reliant on the algorithms and maybe government support just to get by.
Precisely. Convenient, maybe, but not free.
Which leads us to the third path, the one we're focusing on today.
Right. Path three is the two worlds philosophy itself. This is presented as the intentional strategy, the way to navigate this transition specifically to maintain autonomy, resilience, and freedom.
So it's the framework for staying self-sufficient when the world seems to be pushing towards total reliance on these complex, often opaque systems.
That's the core idea. But here's the twist, the real crux of it. To achieve that freedom, the philosophy argues you first have to engage with, maybe even master, the very tools that are causing the disruption.
Okay, hang on. That sounds like a major contradiction, doesn't it? You're saying we need to use AI, this volatile, rapidly changing tech, to somehow secure a stable, grounded, maybe even low-tech life. How does that even work? What does staying free really mean here? And how do you avoid just getting sucked into the tech you're trying to escape?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this is where the strategic element comes in. It tries to sidestep that all-or-nothing trap. either total rejection or total submission.
How?
By drawing a really sharp line,
Yeah.
the philosophy states very explicitly, we are not anti-AI, we are pro-human. That distinction is critical. It dictates how you engage.
Okay, pro-human, not anti-AI. So engagement is allowed, but it has to be strategic, limited.
Exactly. Surgical, not habitual. The core metaphor they use for this engagement, which they call World One, is treating AI like a sword.
A sword. Explain that.
Think about it. A sword is powerful, sharp, effective when used correctly. But you don't carry it around unsheathed all the time, right? You draw it only when you need it for a specific purpose, and then you put it away.
So AI is a tool to be used with precision for a specific goal and then put down.
Precisely. The goal in World One is purely functional. Use AI's power to extract two things from the new automated economy, capital and time. Once you have enough leverage, you retreat back into World Two. It's like a necessary but dangerous temporary alliance.
Okay, that clarifies the how. But where specifically does this philosophy say you should use this AI sword? If it's meant to be surgical, what are the target areas for creating this leverage? What defines World One activity?
The sources are really specific here, limiting this necessary engagement to just 3 core areas. These are the places where AI can act as a massive accelerator, letting you achieve results much faster than traditional methods.
Right, maximizing the leverage quickly. What's the first area?
First up is income generation.
Yeah.
This means using specific AI tools to do high-efficiency work that requires minimal direct human time.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about using large language models, LLMs, to create specialized content that can scale globally, or using AI analytics to spot really niche service gaps that automated systems could fill almost entirely. The key is generating output, and therefore income, that vastly outstrips what one person could do manually. It's about maximizing your effective hourly rate through automation.
Okay, using AI to basically create automated or semi-automated income streams. Makes sense. What's the second area?
The second area is investing. The logic here is, if this AI-driven shift is happening anyway, you need to own a piece of the infrastructure that's making it happen.
So not just using AI, but investing in AI.
Yes, but strategically. The blueprint guides you to identify and invest in the foundational companies, the ones making the essential chips, providing the dominant cloud platforms, the core robotics tech. Companies likely benefit regardless of which specific AI application wins out in the end. It's about capturing a share of the overall technological growth to fund your escape, essentially.
Owning the picks and shovels of the AI gold rush, so to speak.
You got it. And the third area is entrepreneurship, but not just starting any business.
How is it different?
It has to be designed from the ground up to be AI integrated in a way that minimizes ongoing human operational work. The absolute key constraint here is that the business must give you back time. If it requires your constant attention, your constant input, it fails the World One test, even if it's profitable. The cash flow needs to become truly passive or near passive.
So World One is this intense, focused, high-tech sprint. It's all about using AI strategically for financial gain and time reclamation. It sounds demanding. You mentioned hardcore education earlier. How deep does the mastery need to go?
Yeah, the philosophy is pretty blunt about this. It requires serious effort. When they talk about hardcore education, they don't mean just watching a few YouTube tutorials.
Right.
It means really understanding how these AI systems work, their limitations, mastering things like prompt engineering to get the most out of them, learning how to secure digital assets, understanding the investment landscape. It requires focused learning, following detailed step-by-step guides, and constantly updating your knowledge because the tech changes so fast.
So you have to become quite technically proficient, almost an expert in these systems, but the ultimate goal is to spend as little time using them as possible.
That's the paradox.
Yeah.
You master the tools only to earn the right to put them down.
Which brings up that risk again. What if this World One sprint doesn't work out? Or what if someone gets really good at it, maybe even enjoys the efficiency or the money, and finds it hard to actually detach, to make that leap to World Two? That boundary seems crucial, but maybe hard to maintain.
It is crucial. And maintaining that boundary is probably the biggest internal challenge. Pillar 3, meaning and minimalism, directly addresses that psychological discipline, which we'll get to. As for failure, the blueprint seems to imply that speed and diversification in World One are key. If one income stream dries up, the skills and buffer you've built should allow you to pivot. But yeah, a major failure in World One likely pushes you back towards path 2, digital dependence. That's why they frame it as such an urgent, almost existential race to secure enough resources to fund World 2 properly.
That strategic restraint you mentioned, using AI purely for wealth and time, actively avoiding it for entertainment or general convenience. That boundary really is everything. So let's say someone successfully navigates World 1. They've built the automated income, secured the investments. What happens next? How radical is this shift to World 2?
The philosophy mandates it should be quite radical and very intentional. Once that financial buffer and the time-returning systems are established, you have to actively, aggressively put the AI down, at least outside of the minimal monitoring needed for those World 1 systems.
So step away from the screen.
Essentially, yes. The danger is letting the tool's convenience seep into everyday life. World 2 is defined by consciously stepping back from that constant algorithmic engagement and reclaiming your time and attention for something else entirely.
Okay, so World 2 isn't about being a Luddite and smashing the machines because World 1 is still running in the background generating resources. It's about reclaiming the rest of your life, your focus, your identity. The sources talk about returning to ancient human living. What does that actually look like day to day?
It means making a deliberate choice to live, as they put it, like humans have for thousands of years.
Yeah.
It's a conscious rejection of the hyper-optimized, digital-first, consumerist lifestyle and an embrace of the tangible, the physical, the local.
Moving away from the virtual and back to the real world.
Exactly. The focus shifts dramatically from digital consumption to physical production and connection.
What are the core activities then? If you're not scrolling or optimizing, what are you doing in World 2?
It's very grounded. The emphasis is on self-sufficiency and deep connection to your immediate environment. So living closer to the land, taking control of your food supply, strengthening bonds with family, and investing real time and energy into your local physical community.
Okay, give me some specifics.
Well, things like growing food, learning how to preserve it, canning, drying, fermenting, cooking from scratch, designing and building things for your home or homestead to make it more resilient, actively simplifying your life, focusing on utility and durability rather than novelty or constant upgrades.
It sounds less like a lifestyle choice and more like building a personal resilience strategy, almost like insurance against things going wrong in the wider world.
I think that's a big part of the motivation, especially when you look at the focus on community. The ultimate practical goal of engaging deeply in World 2 is to build a reputation within your local area as an indispensable neighbor.
Indispensable neighbor. How does that contrast with the digital dependent from Path 2?
It's the direct opposite. The digital dependent becomes fragile because their needs are met by complex, distant, often brittle systems they don't control. Their skills might be obsolete. The indispensable neighbor, however, has practical skills, produces tangible things, understands local systems, and builds trust through reliability and generosity.
So your value isn't based on your online profile or your consumption habits, but on what you can actually do for yourself and the people around you. Your currency becomes trust and capability.
Exactly. Fixing things, growing food, sharing resources, offering knowledge. The philosophy recognizes that when those big, centralized, optimized systems inevitably face disruptions, supply chain issues, power outages, cyber threats, local resilience and trusted relationships become incredibly valuable.
It's a shift from relying on global networks to strengthening local ones.
Right. By mastering self-sufficiency basics, food, water, energy, practical skills, you secure your own household first. Then you extend that stability outwards by being useful and generous in your community. That process builds the real social capital, the legacy, that can't just be switched off by a corporation or a government algorithm.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, I think. It's not just about detoxing from tech. It's a fundamental shift in where you derive your sense of security and identity from the global and digital to the local and physical. This seems like a good point to transition into the how. How does the philosophy suggest you actually build this dual life? Let's talk about the 6 pillars they lay out.
Right. The 6 pillars are crucial because they take it from abstract idea to actionable blueprint. They provide the specific areas of focus needed to execute both the high-tech sprint of World 1 and the grounded long-term build of World 2. They connect the dots.
Okay, let's walk through them. Pillar 1 has to be about World 1, right? It's called investing guides. What's the focus here?
Yeah, this pillar is all about funding the escape. It teaches you how to become a deliberate owner of the AI revolution, not just a user or victim of it. The guides focus on deep analysis, looking beyond the hype to identify those foundational picks and shovels companies we talked about.
The chip makers, cloud providers, core tech suppliers.
Exactly. The goal is to find investments that are likely to grow as the entire AI ecosystem expands, providing a resilient financial buffer. This isn't about day trading. It's about strategic, long-term capital placement to generate the wealth needed to securely fund the very non-digital assets and lifestyle of World 2. It's the financial foundation for detachment.
Got it. So that provides the capital. Then pillar two, income strategies. This must be about building those automated, time-returning businesses we discussed. How detailed does it get?
This is arguably one of the trickiest pillars, because the standard for success is so high. The business must free up your time, not consume it. The strategies focus heavily on things like scalable digital products, maybe automated educational courses, specialized data services, niche content systems where AI handles most of the delivery and maintenance.
So avoiding anything that trades time directly for money.
Absolutely. The blueprint is really strict on this. Success isn't just profit, it's profit per hour of human input. If a system starts demanding, say, more than a few hours of your direct involvement per week, the philosophy says you need to redesign it, automate it further, or even replace it. The aim is a highly leveraged income stream that requires minimal ongoing effort, freeing up your mental and physical energy for World 2.
Okay, so pillars one and two build the financial engine. Once that's running, the focus shifts. Pillar three is meaning and minimalism. This sounds like the psychological bridge between the two worlds.
It really is. It's the how-to guide for mental independence. Earning the money and time isn't enough if you're still mentally hooked into the consumerist, distraction-driven system. This pillar is about intentionally detaching from that value system
How do you do that?
through conscious practices. Things like reducing digital noise culling apps, devices, notifications, being radically intentional about what information you consume. It also involves deeper work on understanding what truly brings fulfillment, which the philosophy argues is found in real human connections, tangible contribution, mastering physical skills, not in endless novelty or accumulation. It's about rewiring your definition of wealth towards time, relationships, and resilience.
That mental shift seems essential to actually want to live the World 2 life. Which brings us to pillar four, self-sufficiency. This sounds like the bedrock of World 2 living.
It absolutely is. This pillar outlines the practical requirements for physical independence. It breaks it down into 4 core areas you need to master: food, water, energy, and skills.
Okay, what does mastery look like in each?
For food, not just a small garden, but reliable production, efficient composting, serious preservation skills like canning, drying, maybe root cellaring. For water, independent sources like rainwater harvesting, plus robust purification systems, filtration, UV sterilization, ensuring safe water without relying on the municipal grid. For energy, properly sized renewable systems, likely solar or maybe wind, paired with reliable battery storage to cover your needs. And skills, acquiring practical hands-on abilities, basic construction, electrical repair, plumbing, first aid, maybe small engine repair things that allow you to maintain your own systems and be useful to others. Without these, the philosophy suggests you're still fundamentally fragile.
This level of control over your basic needs seems intense. It leads naturally into pillar five, off-grid living. This sounds like the deep dive on the technical implementation.
Exactly. This is where the blueprint gets into the nitty-gritty of designing and building for independence. It covers practical details like how to calculate your energy needs accurately, to size a solar array, different types of water systems, principles of passive house designed to slash heating and cooling needs.
So real engineering and design considerations.
Yes, understanding things like insulation values, thermal mass, system maintenance, battery chemistries. It's about making informed choices up front to create a homestead that is genuinely resilient and minimizes reliance on external inputs and complex supply chains. Functionality and durability are key.
Right. And finally, after building all this individual and household resilience, pillar six, community and legacy. This brings it back to the social dimension, that indispensable neighbor idea.
Yeah, because the philosophy recognizes that true resilience isn't achieved in isolation. A crisis might overwhelm even the best prepared individual. This pillar focuses on proactively building strong local networks. It's about weaving yourself into the fabric of your physical neighborhood.
How do you do that intentionally?
By practicing deliberate generosity, sharing the surplus from your garden, lending your skills, helping neighbors, by building trust through consistent reliability, by perhaps organizing or participating in local skill-sharing groups or mutual aid networks. Legacy, in this philosophy, isn't about wealth passed down. It's about the strength and resilience of the community connections you helped build. It's the social immune system.
So if you put it all together, it's this really interesting loop. You use the hypermodern tools of World 1 AI, global finance, to generate the resources needed to step back and live a more grounded, resilient, community-focused life in World 2. drawing on older patterns of human living.
It's exactly that, using the speed and leverage of the future to secure the stability and connection of the past. It's a sophisticated and demanding strategy.
Okay, so we've done a deep dive into this two worlds philosophy. It definitely presents a compelling, if challenging, path for navigating the changes AI is bringing. Let's try and quickly recap the main takeaways for everyone listening.
Sure. First, it starts from a specific, urgent prediction. Massive white-collar job disruption due to AI by around 2030. This creates the need for a new strategy.
Second, it proposes a dual approach. Strategically use AI and related tech only for high leverage income generation and investing, world one, with the explicit goal of buying back your time and funding your exit.
Third, the core stance is pro-human, not anti-AI. Technology is a tool, a sword, to be used surgically and then put away to avoid becoming a digital dependent. Maintaining that boundary is critical.
Fourth, the ultimate goal is world two, a life deliberately re-anchored in physical reality, self-sufficiency, food, water, energy, skills, meaningful work, and strong local community ties. Becoming an indispensable neighbor, not just an individual survivor.
And fifth, the 6 pillars provide the practical blueprint covering the investing, the income strategies, the necessary psychological shift, the self-sufficiency skills, the off-grid technicals, and the community building. It's meant to be a complete system.
Right. It's a demanding framework, requiring mastery in seemingly opposite domains, cutting-edge tech and traditional living. Which brings us to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to really chew on.
The entire philosophy hinges on this idea of replacing digital dependence with being valuable and connected in your physical community. But funding that World 2 life requires succeeding in World 1,
Yeah.
using these incredibly powerful, potentially addictive AI tools and navigating global finance.
So the crucial question becomes, what specific disciplines, maybe daily habits or non-negotiable rules, would you personally need to establish and rigorously maintain to ensure that the AI sword stays firmly in its sheath when it's not needed for those specific World 1 tasks?
How do you prevent that powerful tool from subtly creeping into the rest of your life, eroding the very autonomy and human connection you used it to gain? Because at the end of the day, the strength of that psychological firewall between World 1 and World 2 seems to be the ultimate key to making this whole philosophy work long-term.
It really is the challenge of our time, isn't it? Using the most powerful tools ever created just enough to earn the freedom to live simply. Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the two worlds philosophy.